Let's talk about one of the most distinctly Japanese workplace traditions that exists, the after-work drinking gathering known as izakaya culture. If you have ever wondered why Japanese workers who barely speak to each other during office hours suddenly become animated and expressive the moment they sit down at a low table with drinks in hand, this video is going to explain exactly what is happening, why it developed the way it did, and why a growing number of Japanese workers, particularly younger ones and women, are done with it entirely. First, a quick explanation of what an izakaya actually is for anyone who is not familiar. An izakaya is a type of Japanese casual drinking establishment, somewhere between a bar and a restaurant, where people go to drink, eat small dishes, and talk in a relaxed environment. The word itself combines the characters for stay and sake shop, which tells you something about the original intention. These places are designed for lingering. You order drinks, you order food, you sit for hours, and the atmosphere is deliberately informal in a way that most Japanese professional environments are not. That informality is precisely the point, and understanding why it matters requires understanding something fundamental about how Japanese workplace culture manages the tension between its rigid professional surface and the very human need to actually communicate with the people you spend most of your waking hours with. Japanese professional culture, as we have discussed in other videos, maintains a very strict separation between the polished, hierarchical, harmony-preserving behavior expected during working hours and the more genuine expression of feelings, frustrations, and opinions that people naturally need to release. During the workday, you follow the rules. You respect the hierarchy. You do not challenge your superiors directly. You do not complain loudly. You maintain the professional face, the tape-mei, that keeps everything running smoothly on the surface. But human beings are not machines, and the pressure of maintaining that performance consistently eventually needs somewhere to go. Izakaya culture developed, in part, as the officially sanctioned outlet for everything that could not be said during office hours. The alcohol is not incidental to this function, it is central to it. In Japanese social culture, alcohol provides what is sometimes called a socially acceptable excuse for honesty. When you say something critical of your boss or complain about a company policy while drinking, the understood framework is that the alcohol is responsible for the loosened tongue. The comment can be acknowledged, processed, and even acted upon, but it can also be dismissed as just drunk talk if the situation requires it. This gives everyone in the conversation a degree of protection. The person speaking gets to say something they genuinely feel. The person listening gets to respond, without it being a formal confrontation. And if the comment was too bold or caused discomfort, both parties can agree the next morning that the drinks were strong and move on without anyone losing face. It is a pressure valve disguised as a social gathering, and for decades it functioned as one of the primary mechanisms through which real communication happened in Japanese workplaces. The career implications of izakaya attendance are also real and worth understanding plainly. For employees who want to advance within a traditional Japanese company, showing up at after-work drinking gatherings is not optional in any meaningful sense, even when it is technically framed as voluntary. Promotions in traditional Japanese companies are heavily influenced by relationships, and relationships with decision-makers are built in large part through these informal settings. The employee who consistently attends, who positions themselves physically close to their manager or department head, who demonstrates the right combination of deference and personality in a relaxed context, is the employee who becomes visible to the people who make advancement decisions. The employee who goes home after work hours to their family or their personal life is often the employee who gets passed over, not because their work is worse, but because they have not invested in the relationship capital that the system requires. This means that izakaya attendance functions as an unpaid and unacknowledged extension of the working day that carries genuine professional consequences for non-participation. You are not being paid for the 3 hours you spend at the izakaya. You are not reimbursed for the drinks in most cases. You are giving up personal time, energy, and money, and for many employees, particularly those with families, health concerns, or simply a desire for a life outside of work, this is a significant and frustrating imposition dressed up as a casual social choice. Women in Japanese workplaces have historically had a particularly complicated relationship with izakaya culture. The informal social dynamics of after-work drinking gatherings have not always been comfortable or safe spaces for female employees. Issues of unwanted physical closeness, comments that would be inappropriate in a formal setting but get excused under the cover of alcohol, and the general social expectation that women attend and remain pleasant and accommodating regardless of their own comfort. All of these factors have made izakaya culture something that many Japanese women have tolerated rather than enjoyed. As awareness of workplace harassment has grown, and as younger generations have become more willing to name these dynamics for what they are, Resistance to mandatory feeling izakaya attendance has become more vocal, and the culture has begun to shift in response. Younger Japanese workers across genders are increasingly rejecting the izakaya obligation, and the reasons they give reflect a broader generational shift in values. The work-life separation that previous generations accepted as the natural cost of a stable career is not something younger Japanese workers are willing to accept in the same way. They want their personal time to be genuinely their own. They are more likely to have hobbies, relationships, and interests outside of work that they actually want to invest in. They are also more skeptical of the premise that sitting at a bar for 3 hours with people you do not especially like, drinking more than you want to, and performing camaraderie you do not feel actually builds anything real. Because here is the honest truth that the izakaya tradition does not fully resolve. The connection it creates is often as performative as the professional surface it is supposedly breaking down. This is one of the observations that comes up consistently in conversations with Japanese students who work in traditional companies. Even after years of izakaya attendance, even after many evenings of loosened inhibitions and shared complaints over drinks, most Japanese office relationships do not develop into genuine friendships. The colleagues remain colleagues. The hierarchy reasserts itself the next morning. The things said over drinks are processed and then carefully filed away rather than openly addressed. The intimacy of the izakaya evening evaporates by the time everyone is back at their desks in business attire. So the question that many younger Japanese workers are now asking, and that foreign workers observing the culture often ask even more bluntly, is what exactly is being built by all of this, if the workplace relationships remain essentially professional and the genuine friendship never quite materializes. For foreign workers in Japan, izakaya culture tends to feel confusing for a specific reason. In most foreign cultures, social connection with colleagues happens more organically, through daily interaction, shared humor during working hours, casual conversation over lunch, the gradual accumulation of small genuine moments across a normal working relationship. The idea that you need a specific ritualized setting, a specific substance, and a specific set of social rules to have a real conversation with people you already spend 40 or more hours a week with feels unnecessarily complicated. And the observation that even after all of that effort, the relationships do not necessarily deepen into anything that would qualify as actual friendship in most cultural contexts makes the entire investment feel like a lot of cost for limited return. The izakaya tradition is not disappearing entirely. It remains a genuine part of Japanese social and professional culture, and for people who genuinely enjoy it, it continues to serve a real social function. But its grip on the mandatory professional calendar is weakening, and the shift is happening because the people it was always hardest on, women, younger workers, employees with families, people with health concerns, and anyone who simply values their personal time, are increasingly willing to say so out loud. That willingness to push back is itself a sign of change in a culture that has historically made pushback very costly. Whether the izakaya tradition adapts to these changing expectations or continues to decline as the workforce changes around it remains to be seen. But the conversation about whether it was ever as effective as it was believed to be is now firmly open. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful or relatable, please subscribe to join my journey toward 2,000 videos. On this channel, I share unfiltered ESL stories. Yes, even the toxic ones, alongside Japanese and Korean language tips, my plants, my pets, and the reality of solo living. If you'd like to support my work and help me build my retirement fund, you can buy a treat for my pets via the link in the description below. Every bit of support helps keep this channel independent and growing. See you in the next one.